Hey guys, it's Cam, Hope 2 Canine Foundation, and we've had a lot of questions about puppy behavior, training, raising, development. They came from posting about the litter that we have available for adoption through the foundation right now on the rescue side. And we opened the discussion up to Instagram as well as Facebook and received some great questions that I think will be super helpful to archive here as part of our body of work in terms of video and content that folks can go back to if they start to raise a pup in the future and they need some support. So I just want to let you know that this is something that we've talked about before. If you search our Facebook page, you will find other video content about puppy raising. Some of the key phrases that you might try would be Puppy Raising 101. There's a series of videos that involve Finn, Kai's Boston Terrier, some content around how she took him from a very fearful and insecure natured guy with behaviors that could have developed into significantly problematic issues as an adult dog, and really tailored his raising environment, the development of conditioning him to where you have a very, very different dog today who's extremely hardy and able to do a lot of things, have inclusion and be very confident and sociable and adaptable in spite of that core nature, or where he might have gone had he been coddled, had he been able to avoid doing things that were stressful and uncomfortable and difficult for him. She really made a significant dent in in determining which direction he went developmentally. So feel free to search the Facebook page. Hey guys, I see you jumping in. Welcome, welcome. Feel free to search the page for more puppy raising videos. Like I said, Puppy Raising 101 is a key phrase that you want to search for. Puppy development and just puppy Q&A, puppy training, any of those kind of phrases. If you search our Facebook page, you should come up with more content from the old days where we share both a lot of things from Finn coming up in the ranks and then other puppies that we've trained through the private side. So for anybody who's brand new to our platform and is just learning about Hope 2 Canine for the first time, we are primarily a training organization. Our nonprofit work stems around providing training content and support to the community for folks especially who cannot access professional training, whether for financial or logistical reasons in their location. Might be that their dog behavior is so severe they do not have a trainer in their environment that is or in their local area accessible to them that is willing to work with those behaviors. Or maybe they've spent a lot of money already trying to get support to help with severe behavioral issues and they didn't get what they needed. This is something we run into a lot. So what happens then typically is that dog is at risk of euthanasia if there's been a lot of investment made into resolving behavior issues and it didn't work. Or the family is considering rehoming or trying to rehome the dog, believing now that they just can't do what the dog needs. They can't be the home, the environment, the family that the dog needs. And unfortunately, this is very, very frequently not the case. What is often at stake here is that you have a dog who's a liability or a significantly challenging dog to accommodate now because it's been going on like this for such a long period of time, practicing bad habits and behaviors, being patterned into a lot of things like severe anxiety, fearful stuff. And if you rehome a dog like that, you end up putting it in a dynamic where the new owner or new family does not have a frame of reference for how severe the behavior could be. So they are less likely to do what is necessary to interrupt or resolve those behavior issues. In fact, they're more likely to do things that make it worse because they haven't lived through the incidences that you have as that owner, that original owner or that primary owner who knows that there's a bite potential, who knows that there's reactivity or aggression potential, who knows that that dog may be a flight risk. These are the things that typically are swirling around those dogs that, owners are saying, we just can't do it. We're not the right fit. He needs more space or more time or, no children or, no men in their life. And so the reason that we share content like this around puppy raising in particular is because if we can stop that initial misaligned thinking, that initial emotional processing around your dog and what they're going through in those early developmental stages. If we can give you this sort of combination to the lock and help you understand the success principles that apply to dog development and raising and cultivating a relationship early on, we can prevent being in these situations of counseling folks with adult dogs that have this misconception that they just can't measure up. And in fact, if you can't do it, you're as capable as the next person, then you're really just passing on a liability to someone else. You're really just at risk of putting your dog through a lot more stress and heartache, or potentially dangerous situations of losing their life in a circumstance that is far more stressful, far more scary and uncomfortable for them than if in reality they really do need to be let go and they can have that experience with you, the person they know. Or better yet, they can stay in their family home with you, learning how to resolve those issues, how to step up in your leadership and see the connected threads of why that's so important with and for your dog in every other area of your life. So that's just a little bit of back information on what Hope to Canine does. We are a nonprofit organization, a rescue company, but we rarely move dogs through our program for adoption. You'll notice if you go to our website right now, we have literally one dog, Cypress, who's been with us for over a year, available for adoption. We currently also have Dag, who's a little terrier mix that's new. She's not been listed yet. And then 2 or 3 of her puppies are left as well. So it is rare that we move dogs through the program because that's in direct contradiction to our belief, which is that the best case scenario is we help people to choose the right dog for themselves, source that dog from a reputable organization or breeder, to understand how to develop and raise that puppy into the adult dog that's going to be a rock star and have inclusion and freedom and success in your home. And as a result, we develop you into a better version of yourself so that you can move forward with better process in every other area. This is how we intend to contribute to stopping the flow of unwanted dogs into shelters and rescues. It's really important that you do not misinterpret that we believe all rescue dogs are better than, breeder-sourced puppies, or that everybody should adopt a dog. That is simply not something that we believe, because not everybody is ready for secondhand dog issues. And not all organizations are giving you a secondhand dog that is, full disclosure, a right fit for you or a safe dog to be out in the community. So we have a different perspective about this, and that's why puppy content and information about how to raise a great puppy is so important, because we want people to potentially hear this content and go, I don't have fucking time for that. I don't want to get a puppy. I'm gonna adopt an adult dog, or I'm gonna seek a purebred dog that's maybe retired in a show or sport program that is ready to kick back and be a match for my energy or lifestyle, or because we want to empower you to raise a great puppy and have an adult dog long-term that fully represents rescue well, right? If you don't raise a great adopted dog and you later have this story of, I rescued her at 8 weeks and she is awful, then you're not promoting rescue, right? So thank you, Bill. It is really important that we have these conversations over and over and over again, because we have a lot of people who are still not supported in the right information on how to get going into a rescue relationship in a healthy way. We have a lot of people out there who are still confused about why they started with a puppy and ended up with issues in their dog, still thinking that if we raise a puppy, that's supposed to solve all those potential horror stories that we've heard about rescue dogs, right? And it just simply isn't true. How we do one thing is how we do everything, guys. So if you set out to raise a puppy, adopted or otherwise, right? If you don't have good process around being proactive, doing your research, being patient, if these are fundamental flaws in how you operate in other areas of your life, think about it. How do you respond to the events in your life that are issues of traffic, delays, plot twists in your life, when things don't go the way you want them to? What is your natural response and process around that? If it is to be reactive, to be defensive, if it is to say, this is happening to me and I just cannot believe the injustice of this. If you're that type of person in your work life, in relationships around your professional career, if you feel that you're a doormat and people don't respect you, they don't see you, they don't validate you, they don't honor your gifts and abilities and give you a platform to thrive. These are boundary and expectation problems. They will show up in your development of a relationship with a dog. They will show up in how you interact with a dog you bring into your home, whatever age that dog may be. If you are overly emotional, if you overly empathize and take on the baggage and drama of others, if you tell yourself stories all the time that are rooted in the past, that aren't based in having done the deep emotional work to clear your stuff and be able to stand whole and healthy, not codependent or enabling, these are things that will show up in how you raise and interact with your dogs. So when we get questions around puppy development, first thing I always have to tackle is it right for you to get a puppy? Period. Because there's a lot of work that needs to go into raising a great puppy. There's a ton of energy and drain. We're in a gorgeous home right now. I'm traveling. I'm on the road in Bend, Oregon, by the way. So anybody who's local, hello, and I'd love to see you and say hello. Thanks, Lorraine. I'm so glad. They do require a ton of patience and time. So point being, we're in a gorgeous home being hosted by Ray and Angie, and they've got a 5-month-old standard poodle right now. This lovely dog from a very reputable breeder. She's a beautiful dog. She has great energy, really well put together. And even they were saying, we are too old to be doing this right now. As soon as I arrived and we're meeting for the first time and they're apologizing for puppy behaviors, I said, don't worry about it. This is my field. This is what I do. I run a nonprofit organization and a dog training company. I love dogs, and I love having conversations around how to help make your life easier with your dog. This beautiful puppy, you guys, by the way, I would be actually quite thrilled to snatch her up and take her home. She does, however, need training. And they're dealing with some issues of her not coming when called and all the standard basic stuff. And she's being raised with a rescue greyhound who has anxiety. The separation anxiety and behaviors are definitely an influence on the second dog. So we have to talk about puppies first and foremost as, is this a logical, smart, fair decision to make to add a puppy to your life in the first place? They require a lot of time and energy. And the first question that I got for Q&A today was from an Instagram viewer who said, what do you recommend for a puppy setup? I'm going to read it over here on my laptop. When you're gone 6 to 9 hours a day for work, what toys do you recommend that they can play with unsupervised? So right away, a question like this is challenging because do I think this is not a good dog owner to have a puppy if you work 6 to 9 hours? Absolutely not. Your dog's going to live through this just fine. You're going to get through to the other side. The challenge that people run into, though, is that they feel guilty, right? Give me a little raised hand emoji if you've ever gone away for a long day, 6, 9, 12 hours, and you feel guilty that your dog is at home waiting for you. I don't care how old the dog is. Most of us can relate to this. We feel the pressure to hurry up and get home, right? You might be out doing something really fun. You're going to see a concert or visit with friends, have dinner out. Yeah, there's a lot of us who experience guilt. Same with children, right? You're away, you're working all day. You feel guilty that you're not spending enough time with them. If you already have this complex around the concept of an adult dog who is potty trained, who can be free in your home, don't get a puppy because the guilt is just tenfold. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your involvement in answering that. I definitely still struggle with this, and mine is 9 months old. It is a very current, relevant thing for me. I feel guilty when I'm gone for long stretches and I'm not putting in enough time or energy into my dog. Even though he is crate trained, he has lots of great, amazing things he gets to do every day in his life. He's part of a pack. It's fantastic. Couldn't get much better than that, right? But the reality is there is that guilt there. Now, if you have that guilt and you misplace it and you put it into becoming a permissive, passive, emotional dog owner, you're raising a puppy who is going to give you problems long term. This is the challenge, right, of having a schedule solution for raising a puppy that is young, that needs a lot of fulfillment, that needs lots of regular nature breaks and things like that. How do you overcome it if you've already stepped into that commitment to raising a puppy? Well, you can adjust your budget and make the decision to accommodate for a walker, someone who comes in and lets your pup out for a walk break, potty break, for a little bit of socialization or fulfillment. You might have in your area a valid, legitimate, and beneficial daycare or socialization opportunity that you can put your pup in a couple of days a week. It doesn't need to be every day. If your dog goes into good to know, Lorraine. I'll kind of try to speak to that. if you can, put your pup into an environment like that a couple of days a week, let's say Monday and Wednesday, they're pretty darn exhausted Tuesday, Thursday, and then Friday is maybe your day where you come home and your dog is starting to build those energy banks back up and you need to go do something with them after work on Friday evening or before work on Friday morning. Let's just say we're talking to the average banker's hours job. So your budget needs to be adjusted is the answer to this question. And then the second piece of that is what toys for not being supervised. I really believe in building crate training to be something that encourages and promotes calmness. I don't believe in making the crate a smaller version of your living room Disneyland. And this is really important for several reasons. Systemically, our dogs need to rest. Systemically, our dogs need to learn not to be constantly jacked up, entertained, and in motion. It's the same with us, right? It's the same reason we teach place command. We're really teaching the dog to not have this constantly overloaded nervous system where they are on 24/7, 365, and anxiety really stems and develops and is fostered in that place, let alone just entitlement and a dog who is fundamentally groomed to believe they should be entertained all the time. So when your puppy is crated during those stretches that you are away and have to go to work or do your life, even if they're longer stretches, it's better, in my opinion and experience, for that pup to learn to just chill and be okay doing nothing. The exception might be something like an Antler or a Nylabone or a Durachew. One thing that puppy can learn to covet and identify as something they only get in that environment that gives them an outlet for their chewing to not promote them to eat the crate or any bedding or whatever that otherwise might be in there. It is important to give them something to do. Kongs would be another solution for this. You can stuff your Kong toy. It's that beehive looking toy for anybody who's not connected. You can stuff and freeze those. They'll last a lot longer for dogs to work at. You're essentially giving the dog a puzzle in order to earn their food, to access their food. You would put their actual meal in there. You can put kibble or raw food. You can run broth through that and freeze it. You can use things like pumpkin and goat milk yogurt, all kinds of things that you can put in a Kong. And you can prep those on your weekend, the same as you might do your own meal prep. Throw them in the freezer, and then each day you can pull one out, and that can be something that your pup has. If you're in the habit and close enough to go home for lunch, for example, make that the second half of the day activity that your dog gets, because they're typically going to chill out a little bit easier in the first half of the day and then struggle with having been put back in the box when you leave after that lunch break. If you have a dog walker, you could advise them to give the dog the Kong or the Durachew in the second half of the day. Your pup is comfortable and relaxed in the crate. He just has a Nylabone. Brilliant. So you're giving exactly the example of success that I'm preaching here. This works really beautifully to teach the dog. Crate time is calm time. It's not a time for busyness, restlessness, continuing to be entertained and nutty. It's a time to decompress from, having had a walk or training or socialization. It's a time to learn to just be calm and chill. And imagine long term when that dog is an adult dog, guys, if they have to go through surgery, if they have to have crate rest because they've had an injury, you really want to have built this skill very early on so that your dog doesn't struggle with that as an adult. This is why you're using this management tool. It's to create proper housebreaking habits. It's to create that calm on command component. It's to create the ability for that dog to rest, recover, and have boundaries around their involvement with you and their ability to be okay on their own. So that's kind of my main answer to this question of how do you handle the 6 to 9 hours. One, you've got a budget for this. And if you haven't thought about it before getting the puppy, it is going to be more painful to have a resolution for that after the fact. People who are interested in getting a puppy, be prepared to adjust your priorities financially. Puppies are extremely expensive, not just because you have vaccines and you have spay and neuter and you have lots of food that they're going through, the same as when you raise a teenager, and because they need certain equipment or toys or chews, to which I think many people go overboard. They're expensive because you have to change your priorities and where you spend your money based on your time and availability. They're expensive because they need training and socialization. They need opportunities to go out and figure out how to fulfill their drives. This is investments in, bite work, scent work, agility, various activities that are well suited to the dog that you got. And the reality of that is it's got to be money that comes from somewhere. For most of us, it means we're sacrificing something else in favor of investing in that animal. And the solution to potty breaks and training your dog well around the crate use is the same. It often requires that prioritization financially to shift, that you invest in paying someone to let your dog out and allow them to have those nature breaks and to get that separation from too much time in a crate for a dog that's too young and needs more stimulation. It also requires you to change your priorities of how you spend your time outside of work hours. It is absolutely unfair and unreasonable to expect to get a puppy and still have your nights and weekends free to go out with friends and do whatever you want. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news for anybody who wasn't expecting that, but it's extremely important that you do not expect to get a puppy and continue to have your free time the way that you've had it prior to that puppy coming into your life. You are now making a decision to prioritize your time to invest in developing a baby into an adult dog, and that would be the same requirements on many levels as having a human child. You can get a lot further, a lot faster with a dog, however, which is why most of us should have a dog, not a child. But you do have to change your prioritization. It's extremely important that you're prepared for that. Robin is saying, I did so many things wrong while raising my pup. However, I did a lot right. Now that I know better, I've been able to fix the mistakes I've made and see the wonderful dog you did help create. Good for you. My dogs will only chew on their bones and will look around the house for them to chew. In the crate, they need a blanket to snuggle into and will sleep all day long. Good for you. I so agree with all of this is important. I don't think it's bad to leave them crated when not home, even as adults. If they're very relaxed and rest, you can know for certain they're safe and comfortable. 100% I agree with you. Husband and I alternate going home at lunch to let them out, Lorraine said. We spend more time at home now. Yeah, you have to, right? But it'll be temporary. You'll raise this pup who's 5 months now, and in a year, things will look dramatically different. And in 2 to 3 years, it will look dramatically different. You will have massive freedom. You will have a lot more flexibility on how you spend your time and how long you can leave your dog. And it's something that you don't grow through that quickly when you have an infant, human infant, right? So thus why I do not have human children. So I really hope this is helpful, and it is in no way anything that I answer for you guys. There's zero judgment or shame or blame. Trust me. I've made all the same mistakes as anybody who could articulate a mistake being made with a dog over my many years, over 20 years now of having dogs. And I 100% empathize with how easy and insidiously we go down those paths of putting too much emotion on the dog, thinking that we need to overdo it in the fulfillment department, or not having the right expectations of what our pup is going to require of us or our dog is going to require of us when we get them. So this is just information. If we don't talk openly about our struggles and mistakes, if we are afraid to disclose that information, if we hide it, if we negotiate about the severity of it, nobody wins, least of all ourselves, right? It's extremely important that we take 100% responsibility for where we're at, what we are working with, our gaps in understanding and process, and to then start from there with going and getting the tools we need to improve that same process. And to be able to, have more intention and more education and empowerment around what we do going forward. So the second question is, the toy thing, I just wanted to finish that commentary. The reason that I'm saying antler, Durachew, Nylabone, there's so many ways in which you can think a toy is safe to leave unsupervised, and that puppy will find a way to tell you that it's not. Either by consuming something completely that could create a blockage and be super dangerous. Any of your rope toys, these sorts of things, they can be picked apart. Dogs can manage to chew and eat pieces of those. But also just because it's really important that we don't stimulate. She's in a crate right now, Jennifer. Otherwise, I would gladly show her. I will do my best to capture something and get it posted to the page, though. Okay, her name is Chili, and she's a beautiful sort of orange paprika color. And then they have a amazing rescue greyhound named Coriander. So fun names, right? But she really is a lovely looking dog. And I asked them, the breeders in Utah, being a boxer lover all these years, my boxers have always been drawn to poodles. They are, they play very similarly. They're very footsy. They're very puppyish for life. And so I actually really, really love standard poodles. And this dog is she's a very nice dog. She's very well put together. She should be a nice size. At 5 months, she's pretty substantial in size, which I also really like. And she's just got a great energy. She's a smart pup. So great questions and answers. Thank you, Chloe. What about choosing a puppy? Watched a video on Volhard test. Loved it. What if? Summer says you aren't able to perform that test. Are there some quick indicators when choosing a puppy instead of performing? The quick indicator, Summer, is to run the fuck away. Do not get a puppy if you cannot temperament test it. Because why would you not be able to temperament test it? Let's think about that question really at the core. If you're not allowed to temperament test it, it's probably because it's a Craigslist dog. You aren't being given the opportunity to see the parents, the environment. It could be that it's a puppy mill dog. It's coming from a broker. You're not able to have the time and space and freedom and welcome empowerment to properly temperament test that pup, or they didn't do it for you. Here's the thing about the Volhard test, guys. It's meant to be done at 49 days, 7 weeks. Puppies shouldn't be leaving until 8 to 10 weeks. So if that temperament test wasn't already done, that's red flag number 1 for your breeder source, okay? Or for your rescue source. If you're not allowed to do the temperament test at 8, 9, 10 weeks, whatever it is that you're encountering this puppy, Summer, then there's more red flags. Do you get what I'm saying? Like if someone came to me today and they said that puppy Nux that you have right now, the little boy that we have right now, I want to temperament test that pup. I'd like to meet him on Saturday and run a temperament test. I would be thrilled to have that request made. I would be thrilled. That would immediately push that person up to a space for me around, it's linked in other videos, Francis, but at some point I'm sure we can. I can't do it right now. But it is linked in other videos. If you search our page, temperament test, puppy temperament test, you'll probably find that content. We've shown it several different ways to Sunday. And also the information. Yeah, you can totally do it. I did it at 8 weeks. I did it late when I met Laszlo, my puppy Laszlo. And he tested out exactly what I was looking for, just a little higher drive. But the numbers that came out was like, he has to have primarily these 4s and 5s, I think it was. And I didn't even meet him. I didn't touch him. I didn't meet him until that test was performed. I watched and had the score. Kai was the handler. And when I went to the breeder and I wanted to do that test, she was like, absolutely knock yourself out. She'd been traveling over the 49-day mark, so it hadn't been done by them. But they welcomed me to do it, and I was able to take the time and not like, I didn't want to touch him. I didn't want to meet him. I was not going to consider that dog if he didn't test out correctly. That's what you have to do, guys. This is coming back to the human and the leash here and the process around having good boundaries, taking responsibility and ownership for not being emotional in your decision, and being willing to walk away if it's not a right fit. And that's really hard for us humans to do. We're impulsive. We're incredibly impulsive, are we not? We want what we want and we want it now. I mean, it's why we get fat. It's why we're over 60% divorce rate. Like we're so impulsive. We have to know that. And we have to budget for that if we want to stop living in heartache and frustration, right? We have to know that when it comes to getting a dog, that the right dog is out there if we're willing to wait and be patient. The same as the right partner. If you're willing to wait and be patient and be honest about who you are and what you're working with, you're going to be so much happier, you guys. Just think about all the things that you've done in your life, anything, hopefully one thing, where you've actually taken the time to do it right, where you've actually put the work in and you have had the impulse control to, have your standards set and have it, a manifestation in your mind's eye of what it is that's the best case scenario, right? It's so much better in the end. You go after the thing that you really want and you work hard enough and you're patient enough to get it, it pays off. Chloe, you said, have you heard of the puppy culture method? I can imagine what it entails, like exposure to touch, sounds, objects. I only heard of this today. Yes, do your research, guys. These are all systems that will give you intention around how you environmentally develop your dog. Environmentals that you expose them to, ways in which you can create a hardy, balanced, solid dog, so that there's follow-up questions that we're going to get to today, so that you're not asking these questions down the road of how do I deal with fireworks aversion, or how do I deal with my dog being afraid of cars. If you set out to get the right puppy for you and then to do right by the puppy you get, you don't have to ask me these questions about your adult dog. You will not be dealing with questions and challenges of a lack of stability in your adult dog. This is why puppy stuff is so crucial. Stress and recover. I cannot emphasize that enough. If you don't understand what that means when it comes to raising a puppy, you're headed in a direction of struggling with an adult dog. Okay, guys? This is really important. So Summer said, okay, the breeder's allowing me to do the test. I was worried it had to be at 49 days. Nope, you're good. Just do it anyway. And that it wouldn't work beyond that time frame. Glad to hear I can do it after that age. Yes, ma'am. And then Summer, like I said, go in there with your eyes wide open and prepared to 100% walk away if you get those numbers back on that test and you read the profile and it isn't a dog you want to work with and aren't equipped to work with, aren't skilled and experienced enough to work with long term. Trust me, sister, another one will come along and your life will be so much easier if you hold that bar, you toe that line, and you don't budge on your boundaries around it, okay? I promise you, if you need a puppy fix, you just call me. I will run a live stream on the puppies at our property. You can get that fix. You can go down to the Humane Society. You can love on some dogs, but don't buy a dog that isn't the right fit for you. It's just not worth it. You don't have to have the struggle. I think that we have a serious misconception that, puppy drama and chaos and exhaustion is required. It's not. It's really not. If you do your work, same as anything, if you set out in ownership, 100% authenticity about who you are, the way you like to operate naturally without trying, your personality, your temperament, your quirks, your energy, if you set out with that ownership and that awareness and that consciousness and intention, and your boundaries are something that you are really clear are your responsibility as well to uphold, you can get such a great dog match for you. And then that raising is seamless. And it takes into consideration breed, the characteristics of the breed, where you live, what kind of time you have in your day, how familiar you are with the general temperament of that breed, let alone the individual testing results on that puppy's personality. I mean, there's just so much that goes into this, guys, and it doesn't have to be a drain. It does not have to be, oh my God, it was the worst 2 years of my life trying to get that puppy up to this point. There's certain fundamentals of puppy raising of you're going to be tired, you're going to be sacrificing your personal time. You're going to have to do hard things emotionally, like correct your puppy and resist the urge to let them out of the box when they're having a tantrum. But those things should pass pretty darn quickly. If you've got a really difficult dog, really difficult puppy, it should be because you anticipated and you were ready for that. And you're probably going to be more in the ranks of a dog trainer who's like, I really want a drivey dog and I'm prepared to spend hours in a day and in my week building and raising and developing and fulfilling that animal. And even then, if we're fulfilling that animal on the right level, we're not seeing the behavioral fallout, guys. So yes, Summer, I got you, girl. Don't worry. If you need some backup on holding that line, you just call us because we want to save you the heartache of going in the wrong direction impulsively. Jennifer, thank you so much. The world needs to hear this. Everyone wants to save a pit or rescue a dog with a plethora of issues, and then they want to love them through it. And it's a clusterfuck, isn't it? It doesn't work. Welcome, everybody. Super glad to have you here. Thanks for hanging out. So I'm moving on to the next question. This also comes from our Instagram viewer who was asking about the scheduling question and toys in the crate. How old do puppies have to be before they can use a prong collar, an e-collar, a bark collar? What brand of bark collar do I recommend? I love this question because this one comes up a lot. If you look at our content around our training programs that we offer on the private side, we say that we will take puppies at 6 months or older for our remote collar training program specifically. This means that the dog is, generally crate trained. Potty training is pretty ironed out by the owner at this point. Some of the reasoning for how we structure this program and this board and train age requirement is for our own sanity, right? But it's also to have accountability for the client to do that fundamental sort of foundational work in the puppy. And that teaches you something, that gives you something really important. It's for that bonding process to be established with the pup. Lots of things that get, really nicely ironed out there by not having the dog come into us prior to 6 months for a board and train. We do one-on-one programs, absolutely. And if you're brand new at raising a puppy, you really should be working with a trainer as early as possible when you bring that dog home, because you can make mistakes and set things in motion in a direction you don't want really quickly. But if you have that professional support called in and you're working with somebody who can watch for those little things that might be going south, or give you the support and advice of how to resolve the issues that come up, you're going to have a much better result immediately and long term. So for the board and train, however, around that remote collar piece, 6 months for us is our preferred space to start the tool. That said, I had my pup on a prong collar at I think 12 weeks, 12 to 14 weeks, because he's a boxer. He's a substantial puppy. We're not talking about being able to do that with a Chihuahua. So there's certain cases where you can have a smaller dog that is hardy enough that you can use a little micro prong, or take a bunch of links out of a 2.25 Hermspringer prong, and the fit is fine. You just have to be really gentle. This would be for long line work. This would be for building the recall and for interrupting any kind of nonsense where maybe your dog is a smaller breed, but has a strong temperament, strong personality. They're disconnected. Maybe they're really confident. Their personality and disposition has them already demonstrating some issues of leash reactivity. It's extraordinarily rare, you guys. This really shouldn't be a problem, especially if you're fulfilling the pup. If you're tiring them out, you're building and satisfying their drives, they're working for their food. All content that is prolific through our database of videos, if you search the Facebook page. If you're doing things from a proactive standpoint, again, you've budgeted your time, you're sacrificing that free time you used to have to shape and mold your puppy, to feed them by hand for all of their meals so that they're learning their commands, they're learning their recall, they're learning their basic obedience, they're learning to shape certain behaviors of place training and following you out in the world. If you're doing this work proactively with your young pups, you're not needing to lean towards tools like this early on. If you have a dog, though, that is a hardy pup, that's a bigger dog, let's say you've got a Mastiff. A Mastiff at 14 weeks, it's a pretty substantial dog, and a 2.25 Hermspringer collar is not going to be any big deal on that dog. It's going to be a proactive tool that could stop that dog from ever developing issues of leash pulling or, refusing to recall, things like that. Again, I advocate 100% for shaping behaviors and using food at the puppy stage. Puppies are highly motivated by their food, especially if they only ever get it from you in the context of working with you and for you. And it's such an easy, beautiful way to be in a reinforcement mode with your dog, to reward the things that you want more of: sit, down, come, eye contact, attention, enthusiasm and drive and curiosity and openness to trying scary things. It is such an important and beautiful sort of biological, instinctual, species appropriate way to get ahead of behavioral issues that show up long term. If you're constantly in a corrective mode with a puppy, you're going to overwhelm, shut them down, or create an imbalance in the trust and respect of the relationship. So this is where, if you're starting to say to me, I have a 16-week-old puppy and I need all these tools, something's wrong. We're out of balance. By the same token, we base our application of tools on the structure of the pup, how hardy they are, and their personality and temperament and attention and what they need. If we can give that dog a little bit more information through a small prong collar early on and prevent behaviors from developing, best case scenario. If we're trying to apply tools too soon because we don't understand the fundamentals of how to raise and develop and shape a great puppy, then I would say time out. Get yourself a professional and don't make a DIY decision based on frustration that you can't control your dog. Your dog likely has too much freedom, and just simply making sure they're on leash full time until they're reliable, it could be something that was already missed. So hopefully that creates a little bit more clarity for our Instagram, inquirer here, that it is very much about the individual puppy, their physical stature, and how big and how the fit of these tools are. E-collars have weight to them, you guys. So there is a legitimate concern, no matter the tool, even though we stand behind the use of tools like E-collar Tech product, which is designed like a TINS unit. This is not a shock or a zap. It is not something that is felt through the system. It is a blunt, localized sensation if you put it on yourself, just like a TINS unit. Even though that is the product that we use and 100% stand behind for properly conditioning a dog and creating off-leash connection in particular, it is still a weight. The box, the collar box receiver that the dog wears, if you've got a puppy whose bones are not solid and fully developed, if you've got alignment issues that start to develop in that dog, like I've struggled with my boxer, then it's not safe and appropriate or valuable to have that remote collar be something you introduce too early or that the dog wears for too many hours in a day. Anytime we work with a small breed dog, a Chi or a terrier mix, like Milo, who we just adopted out, we always have the caveat with that we want that tool taken off in the crate unless they need the information and feedback to, deal with any sort of crate whining or barking. We want that tool to come off when the dog is resting for long stretches. We want that tool to be something the dog gets a break from, because it is enough weight on a smaller structured dog that you can create literal chiropractic imbalances. That can become very serious as well. So this is a tricky one, and it's really going to be based on the individual dog and on determining whether or not that tool is actually necessary. Can we get the desired result by shifting the structure, the balance, the systems in place and becoming more in a shaping, motivating, reinforcing role with that dog? Or is that the tool that is going to give that dog the information they need to create clarity and build that right attitude and intention in the dog? And that is the most fair thing to incorporate at the puppy stage. Like I said, I started shaping remote collar conditioning with my pup very early on, 4 months or so with the e-collar, 4 or 5 months, but it was a boxer dog, it was substantial, and it wouldn't be full-time wear, and it was something I was still shaping, serving his food by hand, conditioning the remote collar sensation. I have an off-leash reliable puppy at just under 9 months old, and it has been for a long time now. And so it's a lot of wonderful freedom and inclusion that I get to experience with him, because we didn't ever give him the opportunity to practice being naughty and disconnected and making poor choices off the leash. That said, he's still learning, he's still growing. I would never, ever put him in a situation where I would say 100% off-leash reliable because of, say, a fear period experience. Maybe he goes through another fear period and he has a moment where he's startled by something and his impulse is to run from it. I would never make such a bold assumption that my pup is solid and 100% there in an environment he's never been in, or, based on circumstances that could happen developmentally. So these tools, guys, they're meant to be things that support your dog's growth and development. They're meant to be things that interrupt and address where you see a bad habit forming, just like you would a child, right? Ooh, I see my child is starting to explore lying, this concept of, can I get away with half-truth or lying, and then I don't have to brush my teeth or I don't have to finish my vegetables. If you start to see these things, these attitudes or intentions that are developing, because we're opportunistic creatures on both sides, we pursue pleasure and avoid pain, then you can sometimes implement a tool in just the right way to where you squash that or eliminate that as an option for the dog. Jumping, counter surfing, these types of things. But does it need full-time use? No, not necessarily at all. And then we've got to make sure that we are respectful of the structure, the development of the dog physically, so that we don't create problems in that dog by overusing a corrective tool or a tool that does have some weight and substance to it. All right, hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Another question here, let's see. Fireworks was one. I alluded to it earlier. I'm going to come back to it. And it was, hang tight, guys. Uh-oh, I lost my own email here because I cleared it by accident. Hang on. All right, fireworks. We have an adult pitty, barks on the first firework or two, and they happen randomly. So it's usually a surprise to me when they happen. And we have a sound-sensitive 7-month-old dog that wants to run, bail, when she hears the fireworks. How do you help puppies get comfortable with these loud, random sounds? Key ingredient here, Stephanie, is random. You are going to be limited, right? You and I both become startled when something happens that we weren't expecting it. No matter how solid we are, no matter how much of a thrill seeker we may be, when something happens unexpectedly and it is loud, intense, overwhelming, produces adrenaline. It's startling. Imagine being in the car and all of a sudden, you have a threat that oncoming traffic, someone may hit you, or the driver has to swerve in order to avoid something in the road. You're going to feel that adrenaline. You're going to feel that intense overwhelm. And sometimes it's even extremely emotional. That can be traumatic, right? It could trigger, in another person, it could trigger PTSD. It could be extremely overwhelming. These are things we can't help, guys, other than to build from an internal standpoint a solid ability to call on a feeling even when you don't feel it. Enter concepts of meditation. If you're a person who has a regular habit of meditation, that's exactly what you're building your subconscious to do. You are setting down to enter into a space of calm and connectedness, even if you weren't feeling calm or connected before you sat down. You're building the ability to access that feeling, the affirmations, the sense of I'm okay, I'm stable, I'm solid in this moment, I'm not in danger, I'm not at risk, I don't need to run. You're building that ability to call on that feeling so that when you're in an environment where something happens that triggers you, startles you, stresses you, could be the example I gave, or it could be going back to the top of the broadcast, talking about being in your work environment and professionally having stress, resentment, issues of overwhelm or frustration. These are all rooted in not having a core foundation of being solid in your own skin. They're all rooted in insecurity. When we're defensive, when we're reactive, when we're frustrated, when we feel overwhelmed, we're choosing to focus on the wrong things. We're coming from a place of insecurity. So if we alternately get ahead of the game and we proactively build our engine, so to speak, to be able to call on a feeling even when we don't feel it, to build that meditation skill, that is how we start to override those other issues of reactivity, of defensiveness, of insecurity. This is what place command does for our dogs. When we teach our dogs place, and you have tons of information available to you about that through our videos on this page, videos on our YouTube channels, both the old training company Home2K9 and the Hope2K9 channel that is developing now. When we teach our dogs place command, we build that meditative skill. We build their ability to call on a feeling they aren't actively feeling in the moment and to change their association with stress. So let's say we take your adult Pitty and we look at the place command concept. If she hears the startling sound of a firework and reacts, you then have the opportunity to say, no, that's not a problem, let it go, and then direct her to place. If she's built the skill of place and duration, which I know she has, she's now being given a directive to call on a feeling of calmness in a moment she wasn't already feeling it. In a moment where she actually felt stressed and insecure and unsure. You're helping to override her association so that as time goes on in the future, she can hear the firework and access the calm feeling. The reactivity can fully be removed at some point if you're consistent at this. If you have a puppy, they're going to have a longer stretch in developing that connection. That's the difference. The other variable could be overall soundness. This comes back to temperament testing puppies. If you have an inherently insecure dog, which shows up in temperament testing, if you have an inherently sensitive nature where the dog is not as sound in their ability to absorb stress and deal with stress and trauma in the environment in a way that doesn't shake them so badly, you're going to battle those moments of flight or fight more frequently than a person who chooses a puppy who has a sound temperament. This, my friends, is why we cannot go after on a witch hunt the eradication of good breeding. If we take a stance that purebred dogs are the devil and we should stop breeders across the world from producing solid dogs, we will be left with junk. We will be left with secondhand dogs that were not bred intentionally to have sound, stable temperaments, that struggle to deal when they're stressed, that go into fight or flight. And remember, they only have so many ways to be in either. And it's with their teeth that they can primarily tell us how they feel about something in either circumstance. we will be left with dogs that genetically are not good dogs. They are now interbred with bad genetics and poor whelping and poor development, influencing each other in their social experiences. We will no longer love dogs, guys. This is really important. When we breed the dog for stability, we're creating that core level of place command. It's on a genetic fundamental level that you get, say, the equivalent of a person who handles trauma in a healthy way and, say, encounters a car accident and can stay calm and make executive decisions and contact 911 and support the victim, versus the person, and you all know or are one of these sides of the equation, right? Versus the person who's screaming, maybe fainting, running away from the environment, can't handle the blood, the guts, the trauma of the experience. They're not as stable. You guys with me? You're getting quiet here. If we don't preserve, healthy breeding, we're left with the runners, the screamers, the fighters, the panickers. This is really, really a problem for dogs, okay? And it's certainly a problem for us. We're not going to love dogs on the level that we currently do when we're left with only those genetic bases, okay? And we certainly would have a problem if we were left only with that genetic base on the human end, right? If we didn't have people, think about it. You all know people of both sides of this equation, right? And drop me a comment and tell me which one you are. Are you a fighter, a flighter, a fleer, or a freezer? Because if we only had people who ran or froze, we would not have emergency medical services. We would not have ER trauma physicians. We would not have, I was going to say, some solid politicians. We have very few. We would not have, hey Janet, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for the tags, Rachel. Appreciate you bringing folks in. We would not have those people in leadership who ground us and drive us in a healthy direction of, being objective, right? Fighter Jessica, yeah, I would say that's me. We would not have those people who take a stand, right? And who advocate for good process, who advocate for, fairness and liberty. These are really important components of our race, that we have genetics behind how those people are developed. That's drive, my friends. Drive is a crucial ingredient to determine who makes it in this world, who creates the life and the impact that they really want, that in turn benefits everybody else who isn't of that drive. So this is a part of the puppy conversation unequivocally. It can't be avoided. And it's why when you raise a pup, you have such an incredible responsibility, the same as a child. Not that they're the same. Don't come after me for that. Humans and dogs are on a different level. But when you set out to raise a being, you have a responsibility equally to do right by that individual, to set the stage for having that dog be a good ambassador for their breed or a good ambassador for rescue. Because there are many dogs available for adoption and rehoming out there that are phenomenal dogs. They are a byproduct of someone else's poor process and inability to stay the course or make the adjustments and prioritizations in their life to have the balance work well. They could be a byproduct of just circumstance happening to that individual, death, injury, homelessness, you name it. These are all things that are not about, communicating shame or blame. It's just the reality of where dogs come from, right? Also, it's a byproduct of those dogs not having sound genetics and having the propensity to bite. And they get into trouble, and an owner who's running into these behaviors that are from that core gut level of how the dog is built and raised is too much for them to handle. They're unwilling to stay the course on that liability. Those are also the secondhand dogs that we deal with. You guys have to see this cat. Okay, hold on. Hold on. They have a really cool cat. Let's see if I can get this steady enough. And Des, it's because you are on the live stream that I'm showing you this cat. She feels like butter. She feels like butter. Okay, that's it. That's it for the cat right now. I just had to show you. I love this place. Okay, we were in a very serious conversation of canine genetics and puppy development and selection. And I'm so stoked that you guys are into this because I could talk about this stuff for days. Ashley, hey, glad you're here. We're almost ready to wrap up. I'm going to see if I can grab you one more, the last question, okay? And just identify what you are. Are you a fighter, a freezer, or a fleer? And really think about, like, if you're one or the other, you need the other, right? It is in that sort of symbiosis of the yin and yang of what we all bring and having both sides of the coin. Like, we need the troubled dogs. We need the challenging dogs because they grow us, right? We need the challenging dogs because they make us better. When we help our dogs, we help ourselves. But if all we ever have is challenging dogs, if we get on this ridiculous narrative that purebred dogs are the devil and breeders are making the problem of unwanted dogs, stop that, because you're wrong. You can't follow that narrative all the way to the end and arrive anywhere other than there is such a thing as reputable breeding, and we must preserve genetic balance in order to love dogs and have dogs in our lives for the purposes they originally were so valuable to mankind, right? It's really important, you guys. There are also tons of shit breeders. There are tons of breeders who do not understand how to whelp a dog. There are tons of breeders who do not understand nutrition and healthcare around their breeding programs. They over-vaccinate. They feed their puppies crap. They set those puppies on a path from the very beginning that creates struggle for owners. There's tons of that. Don't get me wrong. Finding a reputable breeder is hard to do, but this is where it comes back to human process and being patient and doing the work to go find that person and make the proper investment in waiting for the right puppy for you that is temperament tested to match your life and your experience and knowledge level, and that is built and whelped and raised and set on a path of success that you can pick up that baton and run with it and continue to have healthy breed standards and ambassador dogs, okay? Chloe, I can't wait to not have a project dog. Yes, I am excited for you. I'm excited for anyone who understands after all these many years that many of us have been helping secondhand dogs with disastrous issues, health or behavior or both. I'm always excited for that person to have put in all that time and energy and very much earned the right to experience a well put together dog. It is something that, is really quite a wonderful experience, and I think really important to rescue. I think it's really important to rescue, that we understand this balance of the relationship. And you guys, so many amazing, reputable breeders are involved in rescue. That's the kicker. They want to preserve their breed. They care so much about their breed of choice that they're committed to, that they are massively involved in rescue 99% of the times, bringing those dogs that need to be rehomed into their programs and ensuring that they get proper placement or a lifetime commitment, and that they assess those dogs for whether or not there is information about the lineage that needs to be taken into consideration, right? So they can adjust a breeding program to stop anything that's showing up that's temperament and behaviorally not appropriate. So you've got somebody behind you breeding Cane Corso and Pit. Yeah. I mean, there's tons of that shit, you guys. I know. Just don't support it, right? Speak out against it. Educate those people. Don't support it. Don't get your puppies from there. Don't make an excuse that you rescued your dog from an idiot on Craigslist. You didn't. You enabled somebody who is getting money for making dogs, and it shouldn't be. So we have to be accountable here. We have to be honest about where we're at, and that's not to create shame or blame. It's to create ownership and accountability. Stop doing it. Don't do it again, okay? We've got person dealing with issues that come with oopsie litters. I support ethical breeding. Amen, Rachel. I mean, you've got a puppy who blew like both his ACLs or whatever, right? She adopted a dog from our program and he's freaking adorable. He's a great dog. But, speaking of, I think I saw Ashley on here. You should post that picture that you posted, Rachel, of Kane this morning. You should post it because Ashley's on and she will love to see him. I don't know if Ashley knows that, but Mateo, that he blew both his like cruciate ligament or something, ACLs. I mean, come on, the dog was like not a year old. That shouldn't be happening, you guys. That's bad genetics. And we all knew it. There's no surprise. It's still devastating because it's a choice now emotionally that an owner has to make of, can you financially do something about it? Should you? I wouldn't fix them. It just like, this is what people go through when they rescue and they're taking on this shit from other people who didn't produce a good dog. And that's not what happens in responsible, ethical, purebred breeding. Okay. It just isn't. Robin, my next dog won't be a project. I've done the hard side with one, had to put it down. Yep. Now enjoying time with the two I have. I do have puppy fever. I'm living vicariously. Awesome. Good call. Just live vicariously and get more sleep than us. Okay. Last comment here is on behalf of Trudy, who asked, how do you correct a pup who nips your feet or trousers while you're walking? Please, could you physically show how to do it? I wanted to bring this back around because I believe we answered this. Yeah, Ashley, that's what happened to Mateo. It's such a bummer. Cuts from live. He's got tears and mild hip dysplasia. Yeah. I mean, he's genetically not healthy, not well put together. Yeah, but he's thriving. He's happy. You're doing awesome. He's so lucky to be with you. Are you kidding me? Any puppy of mine, any dog of our rescue programs, I think Ashley can agree, that goes out to live with a dog trainer is a lucky dog. That's a lucky dog. Very, very lucky dog. Because he's just got tons of social buddies. He's got lots of structure and boundaries, rules, great leadership, and lots of love. And I mean, he's thriving. He's doing great. You guys have done amazing with him. So Trudy, I answered this in the other Q&A. I wanted to bring it back around again to just add a few more comments about it for the benefit of everybody else who maybe missed the other live stream, because this is a prevention issue. This is a little bit of a prevention issue. Correction is definitely doable and should happen, but it's also a prevention issue. Teach your puppy what she can bite, because biting has to be something our pups are allowed to do. They are predators. They are predators, guys. If you have a puppy and this is new news for you, I'm thrilled to bring it up for you today, because I've made the mistake in the past, before I knew better, of not allowing my puppy to bite the right things at the right time to express their drive in a healthy way. And it is really unfair. It's really unfair to our dogs to not have a healthy respect and appreciation for the fact that as a predatory animal, they hunt with their nose, they work as a pack in hunting their prey, taking down that prey. That is how they earn their food in a community relationship with each other. And, how they express that drive needs to be recreated in any way that we can come up with and manifest in their modern domesticated relationship. Now, every dog's a little bit different in terms of what is their primary drive. Some dogs are more prey driven. They like to hunt and go for things. Some dogs are more pack driven. They just want to be in the tribe and the community, and therefore they're more likely to be with their people and follow you and pay attention to you. We have some dogs that need more of a scent work outlet and opportunity. They really like to work with the nose. They are less inclined to bite or be motivated to bite. Some, it's the opposite. They love to bite. They're less inclined to want to work and have to problem solve. And I would say, for example, a lot of our brachiocephalic breeds that just can't breathe well, like boxers, they're less likely to be structured, built for scent work. They're more inclined to want to do bite work or agility or some of these other things that allow them to have that physical and relationship outlet. Here's where most people go wrong with puppies. They build ball drive. They, create this compulsion for things like fetch, which is very disconnected. Dog goes out and it's getting rewarded and reinforced away from you, this can be really great as an indirect reward for working with you in other capacities. So you can combine that as a reward, as something the dog loves to have access to and gets as a reinforcer for partnering with you in obedience and drive work. Things like IPO, Schutzhund. You'll see trainers use a ball or a tug or something that the dog receives as a reward and a reinforcer for doing work for you first. That's very different than what most people get in the habit of using the ball for. Most people get in the habit of, coming back to that top question, I've been gone all day at work, I feel guilty, I'm going to take my dog in the backyard and compulsively throw the ball for them for 20 minutes because now they're panting, laying down. To me, that says they're tired, and I can feel better about them getting the exercise and activity they need. There's a big problem with that because of this disconnect piece. The dog is not having to partner with you. They're not having to earn that reward with you. Even if you add some simple obedience drills, you will be upping the value of this activity together. You want to add some obedience and impulse control drills in there at a very minimum, but you're also in oftentimes the same environment. Nothing about it changes or is challenging, and you have a dog in a very compulsive exercise with no on or off switch, to where you can often build a lot of anxiety, a lot of obsessive compulsive behavior that spills over into other areas. So the clients that come to us that have built this ball activity into their life in the way that I described, hey guys, welcome, glad to see so many people here. They often have other behavioral issues. The dog is busy, panicky, anxious, doesn't ever rest or relax, compulsively asks for the ball to go back into that activity all the time. They can be territorial. These could be dogs that are fence fighters that bark, compulsively at things that are going on around that environment because they're not getting enough variation in their experiences and their exercise activity. So really important to pay attention. Are you in the habit of having that activity be something you do just on your property, whether a yard or 3 acres, doesn't matter. It's the same damn 3 acres your dog has been in every day for their entire life. It's old, it's easy, and it's old. And you're creating this compulsive, obsessed behavior where the dog is actually mostly disconnected from you, less engaged with you. Rather, I would flip that on its head and I would say use that ball as a reward to reinforce activity of obedience drills or bite work drills, and then the dog gets the ball, they get to have the reward for a few seconds, and then you receive it back and you go back into drills that create more challenge for your dog mentally. Mental exercise goes so much further for your dog. If you spend a few minutes working your dog on scent work or bite work or, agility drills, even that just getting them to get on and off of things that are scary, weird, or new for them, few minutes of activity like that is like the equivalent of running several miles for the dog. We're able to more effectively tire the dog out and satisfy drive with a lot less effort. And in turn, we don't see the behavioral fallout on the other side of what we do see from that obsessive compulsive sort of, I go to work for 10 hours, I come home and I do the ball thing with my dog for 20 minutes in the backyard. Body gets tired, brain is not challenged. Now the anxiety is out of control. So these are just commentary to add to, how do you get ahead of my puppy is nipping at my trousers while I'm walking. Your puppy, who I happen to know is a lab in this instance, your puppy is driven. Your puppy needs to bite something. Your puppy needs to know what is the right thing to bite when, and then you need to send your puppy to place or the crate. Don't leave your puppy free roaming to follow you around and try to satisfy its drive on its own, of its own volition, making up the game that you're responsible to create. I hope that makes sense to help you out here in this particular question. If you get ahead of this and you tire the puppy out properly with a mental challenge and drive you work, tug in this case would be my natural inclination. Get a flirt pole, have a tug rag, something very basic. Work with that puppy on tug and teaching that puppy to release, and then get the indirect reward even of the ball. You spend 10 minutes with your puppy doing that. They might not even last 10 minutes, honestly. The puppy is quite young in this case. You may even only get 5 minutes, and then your puppy's going to be much more tired. Put them away in the X pen or in the crate, or start to tether to place So you can walk away and not have a puppy chomping at your trouser legs because she's trying to get satisfied from her drive compulsion. This is a much more fair way to tackle what your puppy is telling you than to go straight to punishments and not have an awareness of fulfillment. If you've given your puppy the opportunity to do that, you know they have an outlet, they're building an understanding of what to bite and when, and they're still trying this behavior. Now you can be in a correction mode. Now it's very simple to give a correction to the puppy either from the scruff or even the nose front. Under here is one that I'll oftentimes do because the pup doesn't see it coming. And you can create also a solution through something like a bonker. If you have a rolled up towel, some rubber bands on it, you can use a bonker to drop. Puppy gets interrupted on what they're doing. Now you're in reinforcement mode. Good. Give the puppy the thing that she can bite. Give her the rag, have the toy that you grab next to you that's a stuffed toy or something that says, this is what your teeth belong on, not pants, not people, okay? Robin, yes, 100% mental exercise for dog is crucial. Loving the flirt pull tires them out quickly. It does. There is a right way and a wrong way to tug with your dog. Some of the most basic principles need to be that your dog has to win sometimes. I wouldn't play a game I didn't win. It isn't fun. Your dog is going to have the same response to playing with you at games they never win. So make sure that when you're doing tug work, you're rewarding a dog who's trying, meaning the dog is actively pulling at the item and engaged in working against it. This is when they're more in confidence, okay? They're actively working at it. That's when you want to give a little bit and then reward by releasing that item and allowing the dog to win. The other key principle to playing tug properly and building drive properly is getting the dog to re-engage with you. So the minute, that second that pup comes back to consider allowing you to re-engage, get a hold of that thing and start that game again and reward that dog. Don't go so long in between allowing them to win that their mental development becomes, well, I'm not going to bring it back to you because you never let me have it again. This is where people struggle with fetch. If they get the ball from the dog and then they do too many activities, making the dog wait forever to get the ball back, it builds in the dog a belief system that I shouldn't give it to my owner because I'm never going to get it back again. In the early stages of building this type of engagement, you're letting the dog win a lot. You're letting them have it immediately, reinforcing that this is fun. It's good to bring it back to you. It's good to engage with you because it keeps the game going. This is one area that I see children fuck things up for our puppies. Children like to possess and tease and taunt. Do not allow your children to do that to your dog. If you're raising a puppy and your children are teasing and taunting and withholding the item from the puppy, you will build in that puppy a belief that they should not give things up, and that can end up being very dangerous for you in the long term. Ultimately, as far as resource guarding, okay, it can develop even into resource guarding issues, let alone just dangerous or annoying behaviors of possessing, consuming, running away, that sort of a thing. We don't want to build that in a puppy. So this is also why I recommend, as an answer to that question of nipping at the trousers, teach that dog how to engage in that type of drive activity, what to bite, when to bite it, play in that way with your pup. She's telling you she's driven, she needs an outlet, she has got energy that's unfulfilled, and it's your job to get ahead of this and give her the right resources to express that. And then you can move into corrections. And it's not hard to correct something like that, especially if you're very firm right away and you make it a very unpleasant experience and choice for that pup to make, okay? Crystal, hello, asking what would I recommend for a 2-year-old male that clearly has anxiety? Out of turn, yelling, outburst, fence fighting, fence obsession, absolutely has to be first with everything. Growling when given corrections. Crystal, this is a puppy Q&A, so let me super fast on this one, but I want to invite you and encourage you to bring this one back to me as a Fix It Friday Q, because I would love to get into a question like this on a deeper level. If you email me, Cameron@home2canine.com, hope2canine.com. So Cameron, Cameron @HOPE, the number 2, the letter K, the number 9.com. Email me with this question. We can set up a time to live, get you on screen, and we'll go back and forth about it. There's a lot of juicy stuff in this one. Do you crate your dog? Number one, your dog has too much freedom and access to making those choices. We can't start talking about corrections, guys, if we don't have management strategies appropriately engaged. If we don't have crating involved here, you're going to struggle to have corrections timely enough and consistently enough. Does that make sense? If you guys aren't crating your pups and adult dogs with behavior issues, or your pups that you're developing to avoid behavior issues, you're going to miss the opportunities to raise and build and guide that dog, and you're going to be throwing money down the toilet, basically. You're putting great advice after poor management and environmental care. So, Crystal, the number one question is whether or not there's a crate involved. If you've not crate trained your dog, that needs to happen. If you have crate trained your dog, why is your dog not in the crate and having the ability to do these behaviors? Once you can get to where there is crating involved, you now have control of managing your dog's exposure. Now, when they're exposed, it's a quality opportunity for training and relationship development over quantity. We need quality freedom, guys, not a quantity of freedom. If the dog has too much freedom when you're not paying attention, you're asking for problems. You're asking for them to explore behaviors that are based in a poor foundation or a lack of solid impulse control and drives and fulfilling themselves and creating games and jobs for themselves is exactly what produces fence fighting, reactive outbursts, barking, and territorial behaviors. So Crystal, what a great question that I know will be representing quite a number of people who are struggling with this. It simply happens because we get dogs and we're not prepared. We don't recognize the small insidious behaviors that start early on in the relationship, whether puppy or as a secondhand adopted dog, and they lead into this cumulative nature of a lifestyle of stress and frustration and bad habits. So I would love to be able to share a conversation with you, and if you just shoot me an email, copy paste this question in there, then we'll be able to go back and forth together and get you and I a time to chat live where we can actually share a conversation about it, and I can have those questions answered a little bit more immediately and concretely about where the lifestyle and management strategies need to be shifted for you, and give you a lot more targeted strategies on how to eradicate these problem behaviors and give your dog a much healthier and happier life. Anxiety is a bitch. We know that on the human end of the leash. It doesn't feel good to be in an anxiety state, right? It does not feel good to have that level of stress on our bodies, on our minds. And our dogs do not feel good when they're in that state either. Our dogs do not feel happy and balanced and fulfilled when they are dealing with anxiety, whether it's separation anxiety or togetherness addiction, as I call it. Anxiety of a lack of information and direction, not knowing what's allowed and what's not because we're inconsistent. Anxiety because of a lack of fulfillment. They don't have the proper outlets for their energy and drive. That creates a lot of anxiety in humans too. If you are the type of person who needs to be doing and busy and creating and is driven, and you're being told to stop being who you are and to sit still at a job that doesn't fulfill you and it's boring and not challenging and it's the same every day for 10 hours, you're unhappy, right? You're miserable. It's really important when we're talking about, why is my dog acting this way? How can we go back and think about getting ahead of those behaviors from a fulfillment standpoint? If the dog's getting what it needs, we just don't see that stuff happen. And then the misnomer that to fulfill that dog is actually so difficult. This one always frustrates me because we get a lot of people thinking they need to rehome their dog, that they can't be what their dog needs, when in reality, it's not going to take that much time if you're doing it right, if you have it from a quality standpoint. I'd be curious, Crystal, what the breed of your dog is as well, because there's certain characteristics that do just fundamentally follow these dogs. He gets crated, the negative behavior happens from his kennel. 2 other dogs in the pack, he won't play hard with the other 2 when in the yard. He sits and stares at the fence no matter how much we correct him. I know there's something more. Yeah, definitely want to connect. Wonderful. Crystal, I would love to talk with you through this because then we can spend a nice concentrated conversation together, and it will help a lot of other people. It will really help a lot of other people to talk through how to get ahead of this. Because this does sound like fulfillment, right? It sounds like we have too much energy behind this dog in the crate, and then we don't have the corrections that are meaningful and clear enough for him to eradicate the choices he's making. So I love these puzzles because I'm usually really strong at getting down to more of the core components, and then also connecting them to the environment and to you, your relationship with him, where your relationship is founded from. This will be a great one. So hopefully we're motivating everybody to come back around and hang out with us to listen to that when we get it scheduled. And I look forward to chatting with you about it. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because it's getting a little bit long. I appreciate all of you so much for spending time with me today and allowing me the platform to share this content so that other people who are trying to be proactive and get ahead of issues and get the right puppy for them and raise that puppy in a really intentional, conscientious way into an adult dog they love and can have inclusion in their lives and really live a happy, healthy, long life, can have the sources and empowerment to do so. And for the folks that are struggling, like me, who started in a place at one time with one puppy and not knowing what I didn't know then. And I learn still every day, you guys. I'm constantly learning. So please never think that because we share this content, we come on and give you advice that we in any way think that we know everything or are better. I'm always learning, and I absolutely love that about serving my dogs, that it opens up a pathway for continuing that education and development and self-awareness personally. But I also know that there are a lot of fundamentals. I've seen a lot of dogs over these years, and I can guarantee you that what I do share with you is rooted in a solid sense of confidence that these fundamentals to that foundation principle stuff is accurate and it works. It really does make a difference. Thanks for those hearts, Dolores. Yeah, Robin, I'm so glad we were able to hang out. Thank you, Kinsey. Glad you were able to pop over here as well. You guys, there's a lot of trainers that popped on the broadcast today too. So do some Facebook stalking and go find those folks and follow them because they're all creating great content for you as well. And I won't be the one to say it perfectly for everybody all the time. There'll be other people who may say something in a way that finally lands for you and empowers you on a level that you needed and just hadn't heard before in the right time or place. And so really get yourself a lot of sources of trainers sharing content so that you can deduce for yourself what's the right answer, what's the right application. There's just a ton of information out there these days. There is zero excuse for anybody who wants to stay the course with their dog and resolve the issues to say that they just can't afford it or they don't know where the information is. It's unbelievable what you can do these days in any category, especially dog training. And it really just takes deciding that you're going to stay the course and dig deeper and do your own research and figure out what lands correctly for you, okay? You found Eric Latender thanks to me. Awesome. Eric is great. What a nice guy. He's written a book and has some great content out there and does a fantastic job on the East Coast with a lot of his group class work. So I'm really glad to have shared that with you guys. My summits were specifically designed for that purpose. And we will be doing another summit, just carving out the calendar correctly to make the space for it. But those interview series are really powerful towards opening you guys up to more resources and where you can go to get the help and support that you need, because it won't always be us, but if we can help you, we're delighted to do so. And you can head to our website. That is hope2canine.com. Okay, guys? Awesome. Excellent, Lorraine. I love that. Tell them I said hi, okay? I would appreciate that. Thanks, Chloe. All right, guys, have a wonderful day. I'm going to get back to enjoying Bend, Oregon in this incredible home. I am off the race course today. I am traveling, for those of you who don't know, with my partner, Jordan, who runs Sempre Poro Racing. And so our team is here competing. And I actually do not have to be involved in that for this afternoon, which is really nice. So I'm going to catch up on a blog that I owe everybody and some other work. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye for now.